Today I'm breaking down how I recreated Leo Ratata by Anirudh Ravichander. The track is in E flat minor at 93 BPM. Structurally the song is basically split into two main parts. First there's this massive orchestral intro, and then it shifts into a groovy synth rock section with a guitar solo. Before we dive in, always feel free to drop your suggestions for future breakdowns into the comments, especially tracks I might not know yet. Alright, let's jump right in. For the main theme in the intro, I stacked and doubled several horn sounds to get that really massive feel. I started with Spitfire Symphony Orchestra, using horns A6 for the white body of the sound, and horns A2, which are panned or recorded a bit more to the left and sound slightly more direct and metallic. For articulation I went with the long quiver. That gives the tone a sharper and more penetrating metallic character, closer to loud brass registers and less of that typical warm horn sound. On top of that, both layers are doubled again using free libraries. Sam Symphobia Heroic Horns, and Sam Symphobia Bold Legato Brass. In the second half of the intro, the theme is additionally doubled an octave higher by the SSO trumpets A6. They are powerful enough on their own. I didn't feel the need to add any further doubling here. Under the main melody, the trombones from Spitfire Symphony Orchestra are playing the harmonic foundation, but harmonically this is really just octaves and fifths. That gives a much more powerful result than full triads, which would actually soften the impact in this case. So we have trombones A6 playing octave plus fifth shapes, Chimbassi A2 reinforcing the octave below, and the very bottom note is doubled by contrabass trombone from SSO. All of these brass instruments are routed through a group channel. There's an EQ doing a gentle high boost, cutting some low end, and ducking a few low mid frequencies. After that, a tube compressor adds some nice harmonics. And there's also isotope, an exciter, which brings out some additional overtones. All the brass chords are also doubled with a simple sawtooth synth pad from Retrologue, just to make everything feel even bigger. The patch itself is very straightforward. It's 3 sawtooth oscillators, slightly detuned against each other with a chorus and delay. That helps the synth blend with the acoustic brass and make the whole intro sound wider. The synth bass here is a preset from Massive called Hologram Space. It's lightly distorted in the channel strip and then heavily controlled with a limiter. The result is a bass that's extremely punchy, but more importantly, very controlled. Because all these previous elements are high-passed, only the bass and drums are responsible for the low end at this point. Whenever the hard punch from Damage epic tech element hits, an EQ ducks the low end of the bass to make space for that impact. At the same time, the low mids around 140 Hz are slightly boosted, so the bass still keeps some presence. With Damage you really have to be careful about the low end. I reduced the decay time on almost all of the instrument I used here, just to avoid the mix getting overloaded with bass resonance. Damaged Studio Percussion Armageddon Ensemble adds additional rhythmic drive, and Percussion Ethnic Woods fills the phrases in between. As the track progresses, more drum loops come in, especially epic organ and epic tech elements. At this point, the bass foundation is already so saturated that these loops are high-passed. Also, the distinctive snare phrases are doubled using the SSO high snare. At this point, the melody horns switch to a staccato articulation and start playing the chords as arpeggios. Harmonically, it's 2 bars of E flat minor, then B major, and 1 bar of D flat major. These arpeggios are supported by violas and cello playing spiccato in octaves. The contrabass comes in as well, mainly reinforcing the lower octaves of the trombones. The upper strings, violins 1 and 2, play the top melody in octaves with a lot of dynamic expression. CC21 controls the vibrato intensity, while CC1 or the mod wheel controls volume or dynamics. There's also a synth pad added here, Ethereal Earth, Jupiter organs supporting the chord movement from the brass and strings. It doesn't have a lot of space in the mix at this point, but it adds subtle depth. Now we are entering the second part of the song. I'll be honest here, I'm not 100% sure what exactly the bass and the synths are doing in the original at this point. The dominant elements in this section are clearly the heavy drums with those massive toms and the droning bass. But even with Cubase stem separation, I couldn't get a full clear transcription of this part. The drums are built from a kick and a snare sample, plus toms where I tried multiple options before settling on these. On top of that, the full groove is doubled by AR Modern White full drum kit. There's also a tambourine and hi-hat loops. So the kick ducks the toms, while the drum kit also ducks the bass, which is Massive X correlator sub. As well as the guitars. The bass is reinforced by a heavily distorted and filtered synth from Massive X called Abrasive. This line is slightly different, but it adds a little bit of aggression and texture. The signal chain is here Magma Stress Box, a heavy distortion, then an EQ that creates space for the guitars by cutting highs and ducking around 200 Hz, and finally a filter. The second synth sound is that siren-like tone that moves left and right in the stereo field via a modulator. In Retrolook, this was designed using 2 sawtooth oscillators, slightly detuned with a bit of chorus and reverb. It's super simple. There are also 2 additional sounds in the track created from recordings of a passing Formula 1 car to simulate the Doppler effect. That came the closest to the original feel. Before the guitar part starts, a relatively soft snare sample introduces the section together with the AR Modern White full drum kit. At this point I had to decide whether to use a MIDI guitar or to record a real guitarist. In hindsight, the effort was absolutely worth it, even though it delayed the project a bit. Dominic gave me his full signal chain. He used a 7-string chord KX707 with an Evertune system. I ran it through a PV6050 plus preamp into a vintage 30 speaker, recorded it with an SM57, then into a Chandler TG2 preamp, shaped it with an Alta Mode AM25 EQ. He sent me 8 guitar tracks in total. For the rhythm guitar we have the main riff left and right. Because it's a 7-string guitar, there are power chords at the beginning. He also doubled the riff by an octave. But those octaves are mixed very low and barely audible. The rhythm guitar group is stuck whenever the power chord hits and comes back in. There's also the solo and the harmonic flageolets leading into it. I kept the guitar mix a bit softer to match the original. You could push them further, of course, but this is a remake and not a metal track, so the guitars are meant to support a groove rather than dominate the mix. The groove keeps running while a new synth sound takes over the melody, a retro-lock preset called Gnome Sound. Alright, and that's it for the breakdown of Leo Ratata by Anirudh Ravichander. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. See you in the next one. Bye bye.